The road to Wrestlemania begins here with the Royal Rumble. Welcome in, everybody, to a very special fantasy football hustle where we will talk no fantasy football. Today, we are talking one thing and one thing alone. It is the WWE Royal Rumble that will be happening on Saturday night. I am your host, Brian Drake. You can find me on Twitter at Drake Fantasy, and I've got a great panel of wrestling minds here. You know them from the fantasy football space, but today, again, we're talking all wrestling. I got my buddy Ryan Reynolds from the 33rd team. He's the head of betting over there, and you'll find out real quick why we brought him on. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Reynolds NFL. My good pal Joey Wright at the Joey Wright of Football Guys Now. Congratulations, Joey, for that.
Thank you.
New gig and Front Yard Fantasy. And, of course, the Roto Superstar himself, Brandon Murchison at Roto Superstar of Roto Baller. Gentlemen, welcome in. Let me start first, Joey, with you. It's Royal Rumble season. What does the Royal Rumble mean to you?
The Royal Rumble means a lot to me. It was actually the first live event I ever attended. It was the 95 Royal Rumble where Shawn Michaels won his first one. And if you remember, Bam Bam Bigelow pushed Lawrence Taylor in the front row. We were about 20 rows back from there, but it was like right in front of us. So I think I was like 11 or 12. So wait, 95. Yeah. 12 years old. Seeing that, not understanding the working and stuff of everything was just mind blowing, but I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. So excited to talk Royal Rumble with you guys tonight for sure.
Brandon, the Royal Rumble brings out fans old and new. You don't have to be the most diehard fan to get into the Royal Rumble. What got you into it?
We've kind of talked about it leading up to the show tonight. I grew up down here in the heart of Memphis wrestling. I'm right near Memphis, so I grew up with Jerry Lawler, Memphis wrestling, everything like that. So I have that background loving wrestling growing up as a kid. It was something that me and my dad did growing up, watched it every Saturday morning. So my first recollection of really kind of getting into the Royal Rumble was 92, Ric Flair running the gauntlet all the way front to back, winning the WWF title at the time at the end of that show. That was really kind of what got me into really loving the Royal Rumble and this season that we're coming into now.
Ryan, the best thing to me about the Rumble is it brings back guys like you. You've told me off air, hey, listen, I'm not watching this, every single week of the year, but the Rumble is something great because it's unique. It's bettable, which is something we're going to talk about, but it just brings back that nostalgia and of good times. And you've got a great story of kind of how you got into the Rumble with a friend of yours and how you started kind of betting on this event.
Yeah, nostalgia is the key word there for me. It brings you back to when you were a kid, like these guys, in the 90s when I was like in elementary school. Bret Hart was the guy, essentially. You get older, the Attitude Era and all that stuff. And like Joey said, my favorite live sporting event ever was a Raw event. So that brings me, just checking in on it every year through the Royal Rumble brings me back to those moments. And then on top of it, a buddy of mine who just passed away this May, he had a Royal Rumble party every year where, he was a huge bettor. So it was betting centric. We had a pool, everything. So that's something I look forward to every year. Although I would prefer it if it was in between the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship. I would prefer it if that's when it was.
They were smart this year. They did it right. And they said, we're going to put this on Saturday. We're not going to compete with the championship games because they knew they would get slaughtered and nobody would watch the event. So the event is on a Saturday this year at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. We've got the card. We're going to go through that tonight. We'll give picks for the men's and women's Rumble and all the other things going up and down the card. But folks, you can bet on the Royal Rumble. Believe it or not, if you go over to DraftKings, they've got a section for the WWE. I've got it pulled up right here, and it's a little different because it's kind of a pick 'em. You've got to get a bunch of different questions right, and we all know wrestling, guys. You could have something that they have on this card that never even happens. I mean, that's like, hey, we've got a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania main event, and the winner of the match wasn't even in the match. It's happened when Seth Rollins won the championship a few years ago. But if you go over to DraftKings, you can pull that up, and they'll have questions like, when will the number one entrant be eliminated? Before number 4 is revealed? Between 4 and 17? Number one's to win. A lot of fun stuff like that. Who will enter first? Omos or Braun Strowman? So you guys get the point. You can go over there and have some fun and win up to $25,000 on DraftKings. But Ryan, there's also betting odds offshore. And again, however you guys want to bet, if you got a local bookie at the bar taking Royal Rumble odds, God bless you. But talk a little bit about what we found over here at Odds Checker.
Yeah, no, something that I've noticed is that Cody Rhodes has become a more significant favorite as the week's gone on, which, that brutal pec injury that he wrestled through against Seth Rollins. So I imagine that's going to be a front and center storyline in the Rumble. The Rock's receded a little bit, but he's still they're still not willing to say, oh, okay, The Rock's not going to be involved. So he's still a pretty significant favorite. And plus the Sami Zayn storyline's been front and center, it seems. And he's moved up the ladder too. And the other one that really caught my eye is Stone Cold Steve Austin suddenly plus 550. Which is, that's, asking him, having him win the Rumble and then go on and main eventing WrestleMania. That's kind of a big ask out of Steve these days.
Yeah, I don't think a guy like Austin necessarily needs to win the Rumble because whatever he does at WrestleMania will be huge either way. Do you guys think the guy who wins Mania, at least this year, does he have to be an established main event guy? Or I'll start with you, Joey, or maybe someone we're going to ascend you to that next level because right now one guy has both belts. So at the moment you'd be facing Roman Reigns, not to say they might not split those belts off of him at some point. But do you think it has to be a Reigns opponent that wins the Rumble?
Yeah, I mean, I think they started telling the story the night that Cody debuted at Mania last year of the father the family, I should say, never fulfilling the destiny of winning the WWF or WWE title. Cody didn't leave AEW just to be a mid-carder. They're going to put it on him. This return to the Rumble, I'm surprised they announced it though. That's the thing that kind of threw me off a little bit. It would have been much better, big pop, Cody pops in unannounced, but everyone knows he's going to be there. But Cody's who I think is going to win. I think the story's already told, and I think they'll tell it again at Mania. But I think Roman can main event 2 nights because we know it's going to be 2 nights at Mania. I fully expect Roman to main event 2 nights, whether that's against Cody and maybe Sami Zayn, or if they do bring The Rock out. They're saying he's not going to be available, but never say never in wrestling.
Brandon, did you get a chance to watch Raw 30 on Monday night? If so, what did you think of their go home show to the Rumble? Did anything stand out to you?
I feel like with it being the 30th anniversary of Raw, I think they got put in a tough position because they had to do something that was a nostalgic show. They brought back all the legends. So there was a lot of pomp and circumstance to kind of show these guys off, pop the rating, like we've talked about as well too. But in the midst of that, you do have to kind of intertwine that storyline and that build into Royal Rumble. It's the go-home show for the Royal Rumble. So they were put in a tough position. So I did watch the show. Obviously it led off with the big Sami Zayn storyline with the trial of Sami Zayn at the beginning of the show. So that was kind of good to watch. And of course, it felt like it ran a little long. But they've got a lot of build to do with Sami Zayn right now because he's on that track that they're building him up to be that, that Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson type of character moving forward. So I think that's what, that was the main focus in the storyline that they wanted to portray throughout that show. And I think you're going to see it even through to Saturday at the Royal Rumble.
Now, Roman Reigns multiple times said, I don't want to see you, Sammy, until the Rumble. They didn't make him say this more than once for his health. That was a planned line because there's a show in between now and the Rumble, and it's SmackDown on Friday night. So are they saying we don't want him there? Maybe something erupts. They need Sammy to make a save, but he's not there. They wonder, why aren't you here? Or is it that, we're going to see Sami Zayn standing tall, winning the Rumble? And what would that do? They end the show with Sami Zayn looking at Roman Reigns. Can you sell that, Joey, to the WWE Universe, a Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn main event at WrestleMania?
I think you can. I almost wish we had another month because Brandon said it. It's a Daniel Bryan-esque run. Mm-hmm. I was watching the Mania or the Rumble from last year. When Sami Zayn came out, it was crickets. Mm-hmm. This year, eruptions anytime he comes into the arena. It's just what a difference a year makes. So I think with the WWE Universe, you could absolutely sell a match with Roman and Sammy. That Bloodline storyline, listen, I'm more of an AEW New Japan guy. I lean towards that. But this Bloodline storyline is the best thing they've had running since Seth Rollins had his run up to the championship of the Heist of the Century, in my opinion.
Ryan, have you been watching any of this and catching up on the Bloodline story and Sami Zayn at all?
Yeah, I'm at least aware of it. I put War Games on while I was working a few months ago. So one thing that struck me in that situation is I don't know if they still have Elimination Chamber, but if they do, and the finals there was Roman versus Sammy, and Roman asks him to lay down basically, and he doesn't. I think that's the direction they should go with this. Where I
Because
think
Elimination Chamber is the next pay-per-view in
right,
between here and the Rumble. And I saw a leak online. Who knows if it's real? They're making the chairs for the event. You can get those collector chairs. Sami Zayn is on the chair. It's just a big picture of Sami Zayn inside the chamber.
Yep. I
So
was going to point that out as well.
maybe
Yeah,
you're onto something.
yeah, I think where with this, especially for a guy like me, I think if you have Sami Zayn win, a dude like me is gonna be like, what is going on here? So I think that's how I'd handle this.
That's where I go to is when you get to these big events, Rumble, Mania, the casual fan who's not watching every single week looks at it and they go, wait a minute, who's fighting for the championship? Who's this guy? And that's why we always see Lesnar get brought back in, and they got to recycle somebody's got Stone Cold they bring out every year for the pop. And then the guys who are working hard every single night, the KOs and the Sami Zayns, maybe they get pushed to the side. I think that's a real story. Brandon, what do you think here with this Bloodline, Sami Zayn? Where do you think we see that go come Saturday night?
I think that's just going to be another step in the evolution of the storyline. I personally, like Joey mentioned, I don't think that Sami Zayn's going to win. I'm going Cody Rhodes. I think that's the story that's been told for months now leading into the event. So I see this being just, like I said, the evolution of Sami Zayn for the next month leading into the Elimination Chamber. And like we keep mentioning, the rumor is that, Roman Reigns is going to headline both nights of WrestleMania. We've even seen it here the last couple of weeks with the Usos being told on Monday night that they were defending just the Raw Tag Team Championship. So they're already sprinkling in the fact that they're going to split those titles. So I think you're going to see that with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I think it's going to be Cody Rhodes winning the Royal Rumble, headlining night one against Roman Reigns for the WWE title. And then the second night, possibly Sami Zayn or The Rock, whatever they want to do with it, if The Rock can commit to the event.
You wonder, because if The Rock can't go solo, maybe he needs a tag team partner. And the tag team partner is Sami Zayn. But can you see The Rock and Sami? That's very Rock and Sock-esque. From, I don't think people want The Rock to be there to be in a tag team, but you got to get the guy through it somehow. Like when Stone Cold came back last year, he did a lot more than we expected, but it's still not, the 60-minute Iron Man match,
Yeah, they put Stone Cold with the right guy with Kevin. I mean, Kevin could carry a dead body around the ring and make it look good.
There's also the Women's Royal Rumble match. The odds-on favorite to win that right now is Rhea Ripley at -115. Ryan, I know you're a betting guy. I don't know how much you're in the know on some of these ladies, but I mean, she's the only person that's even remotely close. Becky Lynch plus 250. I think this Women's Rumble is really tough to call because, to be honest, there's not a lot of star power in the women's division.
Yeah, I mean, how I'd see that with her, because she's always stuck out to me. She has an interesting look. She's bigger than most of the other women. So it would make, because the Royal Rumble can serve one of two purposes. Either it sets up a marquee match, like say The Rock or Roman versus Roman Reigns, or it's a star maker. So I could see it being a star maker for her, because it's not like Becky Lynch needs to win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Brandon, we're always hearing they want to go, and who knows what happens, but if they go Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania for one of the nights, I mean, those are your two champions right now. Do they go champion versus champion? Then who wins the Rumble? But maybe does a champion enter the Rumble anyways? They can always find some way to, Alexa Bliss really messes her up in their match and some crazy thing happens. She runs into, get her just due on Alexa Bliss and then winds up winning the thing. But to me, it's like anybody else winning this thing. You could have Becky, but who's she gonna fight? Are you gonna have her with Bayley, Alexa Bliss? She's kind of got this Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt thing going on. Like, I don't know. Even if Rhea Ripley wins, like, who does she fight?
I think the odds-on idea for a match there is going to be Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. I think that would be the match that people would want to see at WrestleMania, and Rhea Ripley going over on Bianca Belair and kind of really crowning her and giving her that next step up, because she did the job for Charlotte Flair just a few years ago at I think 36 is when she lost to Charlotte. So I think that for me is what they're going to really kind of point to is with Rhea winning the Rumble is she's going to go on to go against Bianca Belair in one of the two nights. But I think the exposure with the women's division, they're not going to want to combine the titles like they've done with Roman Reigns. I think they want to keep those separated, one on each brand, and really kind of use that as your exposure for the women's division. Charlotte Flair, on the other hand, at this point in time now, I don't know, are you going to hold off and bring back Ronda Rousey for WrestleMania for the rematch? That's kind of what's the thought in the back of my mind at this point in time. But yeah, I think they keep those titles separated for WrestleMania, one on each night. And I think Rhea Ripley against Bianca is the match.
AEW, Joey, you're our AEW expert here. They've got a big problem in their women's division because they've got a lot of women. I don't want to say, hey, they can't go, but they've got a lot. There's no star power in that women's division. It's a tough watch. This division we saw when Sasha went away in the WWE and Charlotte was out. It's Liv Morgan against Ronda Rousey on one channel, and then it's Bayley and Bianca Belair on the other channel. There's a whole lot of nothing here for two different brands.
Yeah, I think they're like, you've got people like Candice LeRae, and this is a weird problem, and it's not. This is gonna sound bad, but I think some of the best female wrestlers going today seem to. This is gonna sound bad. Get pregnant. Candice LeRae, Ronda Rousey, they're having babies. They're creating families. Becky Lynch, and that's awesome that they're doing that. And going.
Are you helping them with this? Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to find a delicate way to say it. But I think there's a factor that doesn't normally play in with the men that's kind of prohibiting some of the women from really reaching that. So you see Charlotte, who's the only sideline her is injuries. So yeah.
Slash wedding.
Different. Yeah.
So let's go through we'll start with this women's Rumble here. Ryan, let's start with you. Who's your Royal Rumble women's winner?
I think Rhea Ripley wins.
Okay. It's tough to say with the women's division because even the divas / legends, whatever, it's tough to plot. Anybody you think might show up or anybody you're hoping to see?
I mean, from the women's aspect, I think you always want to see Lita and Trish Stratus. Those are the two, bring them back.
How about you, Brandon? What do you think?
Like what Ryan just said, I think you see Lita, Trish Stratus. I think you earlier today, I think I saw some tweets. Michelle McCool said that, they haven't even asked her to be in it. And, obviously she lives in Texas where the event's being held. Surprise-wise, I think you're going to see Chelsea Green come back. I know that she's been under contract for a month or two now. They've just kind of been waiting to bring her into the fold. I think she's a surprise that kind of comes back into play. Outside of that, do they re-debut Asuka with a different persona? I know that's been a rumor that's been out there. Yeah, with the Kana persona. I think that's something to kind of keep an eye out for too. But the thing is that they're keeping a lot of things open at this point in time. Last year before, you were seeing the entire roster of the Royal Rumble going into the event, and it kind of really didn't lead any surprises to the mind. At this point in time, I think for the women, there's like 7 or 8 names is the only thing that's been confirmed at this point in time. So a lot of open possibilities heading into that event.
And I'm happy about that. I like that they're not telling everybody like, hey, here's the 25 folks that are going to be like, I don't want that. The whole point of the Rumble is I want to be surprised. Joey, what are your thoughts on the women's side?
Yeah. So what you're talking about, like, what are they going to do with the Charlotte side? I think they've been building this Bayley and Becky feud for a little while now. And I think they've established that well. Well, not too long ago, there was all this news about Becky and Charlotte had a huge falling out. I think we might see a triple threat between the three of them at WrestleMania. I don't think one of them needs to win to set this up. I think it is going to be a Rhea Ripley. I think we want to see Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair go on the grandest stage of them all. We saw it in NXT a few times, but we want to see it on the big lights now.
I'm going to go with Liv Morgan because she looks like every girl I ever wanted an ex-girlfriend to look like. So between her and Alexa Bliss, I die a happy man. But I'm going to go Liv Morgan. I think the fans are kind of on her side. It doesn't make any sense. There's no need for it. And that's exactly why they'll do it. So we'll put it on Liv Morgan. Let's look around to some of the other matches here. We'll save the men's match for the finale.
Yeah.
The WWE Championship is on the line. Roman Reigns is going to take on Kevin Owens for the undisputed Universal Championship. Now, these guys fought, I want to say 2 years ago at a Royal Rumble in a match that was like all over the place. And I remember there was a spot where
Handcuffs.
The handcuffs didn't come off. That was a really good match, folks. Go back and take a peek at that. And I'm like, wow, Kevin Owens can work. He lost the match, but it was really good. I'll start with you, Brandon. They can't take the belt off Roman Reigns at this point with Kevin Owens. There's too much story left to be told with this bloodline Sami Zayn thing.
Yeah, not a chance. I felt like this was going to be the anchor spot because of the build to this match with KO and Roman Reigns, to where you were going to see the divide for Sami Zayn from the bloodline. I felt like that it was going to get to a point to where Roman Reigns is, putting the beat down on KO. The bloodline comes out there, gets involved in stuff as well. And then you finally see that point where Sami Zayn is just like, enough is enough, jumps in, helps KO, not to win per se, and take the belt from Roman, but that's where you create that divide. And then I figured this is where we were going to see the offshoot of KO and Sami Zayn going to WrestleMania to go against the Usos for the tag team championships. That's what I felt like we were at. But now with this whole surge that we're seeing here recently with Sami Zayn's popularity and the pops that he's getting, like I mentioned, it's that Daniel Bryan thing. They might have to throw a curveball into things and thrust him into another spotlight because of how popular he's gotten.
Ryan, this championship, any other event, your championship match is your main event. I don't know if this goes on last or not, depending on how maybe they want to write the story. But what do you think happens between Reigns and Owens?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I think the purpose of this match is to primarily set up Zayn's position going forward. And again, I think the payoff there is going to be the Elimination Chamber. So yeah, I think I agree with that it's probably a case of maybe he doesn't help Kevin Owens win, but maybe he keeps Kevin Owens from getting, completely obliterated. I think that's smart. I do.
Joey Wright, what do you think happens in the undisputed Universal title match?
I agree with these guys. This is used to set up whatever's going to happen next with Sami. I think if they don't have The Rock, they do something a little more exciting here with Sami, making him actually turn, and then set up with Elimination Chamber. But if they've got The Rock in their back pocket and they know they've got that for night 2, I think they're just going to kind of play towards the tag team match with the Usos.
Yeah, imagine something happens and maybe they're beating down Sami Zayn in the ring, and he costs. They could make it where he costs Reigns the championship. Owens wins the title again. He could lose it as back to him at Elimination Chamber to put the bad. But The Rock comes out to make the save for Kevin Owens and for Sami Zayn. So who knows? We got a lot of stuff here. But all right, let's talk about the women's match. I don't know how in the world they can do anything with this match other than Bianca Belair squashing Alexa Bliss, and then they've got to somehow keep this Uncle Howdy Wyatt family connection going here with Alexa Bliss. But it's real weird. It seems kind of forced, and it just seems like a filler to me. Brandon, let's start with you with the women's match.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like you're telling two different storylines. You kind of had to have an opponent for Bianca Belair right now, and there's really nobody established at the moment. So you kind of throw in Alexa Bliss, but now she's starting this separate kind of storyline, going back and reverting back to the whole persona in a degree. So I do believe, same thing you just said, it's kind of a filler spot. They had to kind of put a women's title match on the card. So it's just another stepping stone for Bianca Belair. And I think, she moves on easily in this match. Maybe Alexa puts on a good show and there's a little bit of some theatrics with the Uncle Howdy stuff and everything. But I think Belair really moves on easily here.
Ryan, what about you? Can my girl Alexa Bliss bring home the gold?
Yeah, I think it would be odd to have her win, but I think she's the opponent for guys like me. Like, I know who she is. Like, she's likable, etc. So I think that's the primary reason she's involved in this.
She has a Bowling for Soup song named after her, for God's sakes. Like, she's unbelievable. Joey, what do you think about the women's title match?
Yeah, this is just the laying plans for some spooky stuff to go on. I think we're going to see the Uncle Howdy stuff, going to see what is really going on with Alexa. Does she bring in Asuka as well? Because I think this might be a way for Asuka to come into the picture too. Because with that whole little image that happened the first time she saw Uncle Howdy, Asuka was looking at the screen too, and her eyes went back in her head. It was very quickly. Little Easter eggs there. You got to look for.
I love that. And then, are there still
Women's
tag titles. Does anyone
Are they-
hold them?
I think they're down in NXT with Toxic Attraction. If I may be wrong, I could be
No.
completely wrong on that, but I think
Incorrect.
that says a lot about the.
But again,
tag.
maybe those two come back and then they go for the titles. Maybe there's a tournament or something and they crown the champion at WrestleMania for the women's tag title.
Damage Control has the women's belts.
Oh,
yeah, Io Shirai and Dakota Kai.
Good
Yeah.
Lord. I mean, as much as they're on TV, you thought we would have known that by now. That just shows
Haven't
how
done
much
a
they do
defense.
nothing with those.
Yeah,
I love Dakota Kai. I've waited for her to get a run. Her and Candice LeRae. I don't think it's ever going to happen for either of them.
Oh man,
maybe they should bring in Joey Ryan and do the world's cutest tag team again.
I don't think they can bring Joey Ryan back ever again.
Please, Joey. Joey. I often think that, like, when I'm writing your name out, Joey, I often think of Joey Ryan and instead of Joey Wright. I don't know why with the wrestling thing, but
yes,
I met him
in the trunks.
It was a WrestleMania 33 weekend, and he was kind of a jerk. So when everything went down with him, I was like, well, couldn't happen to a better guy.
yeah, exactly.
So.
All right, now we've got the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match.
I'm glad they got a sponsor.
Yeah, I, as a sales guy, I'm so in love with this match because you got a freaking match sponsored on here. Let me ask you this, Joey. Is this a real match or is this one of those cinematic, boneyard matches or whatever else? Because it seems, what are you going to have all the lights off in the arena while everyone, you got to be able to see the match.
Yeah, I don't really know how they're going to do the match. I just think it's going to be like the Alexa Bliss match. Prepare for something spooky. But I will say one thing about LA Knight. He has looked really good. He's been on fire. And I think giving him a marquee matchup on Royal Rumble is to set him up to get the John Cena rub at Mania. If John Cena is going to come back, I think this is the perfect opponent for LA Knight, would be Cena and LA Knight. But yeah, I mean, this Bray Wyatt thing, it's leading to Uncle Howdy and Bray Wyatt at Mania. I think we all know that. I think spooky stuff's going to happen here, like the Alexa Bliss match. I would be interested to see if it's going to be like a cinematic match or like an actual. I just assume the lights are going to be low or something. I don't know. Yeah,
it's interesting. Now, let me ask you, Ryan, do you have any idea who the hell LA Knight is?
No, I don't. What a great question.
Which is good. He used to go by the name Eli Drake. So, great on the mic. He's really figured it out. And I'm so glad they got him away from that goofy male models gimmick. And now they got him just as a mouthy heel, somebody who can work the mic. There's not enough of those guys out there that can work and be killers on the mic. So I'm happy about that. Now, all right. Well, Brandon, let me ask you this. Bray Wyatt, LA Knight. I was talking with our friend Joe Pisapia about this match earlier today. He goes, LA Knight's more over than Bray Wyatt right now. Like, who needs to win this match more going forward? Bray Wyatt, I mean, everyone already kind of likes him, but like LA Knight, don't you need to keep moving him forward?
I think so. I mean, that's what you're going to see at the end of this match. I believe you're going to see LA Knight go over, I believe, because they're going to, like Joey mentioned, he's kind of a guy that's progressing right now, and you don't really want to take the heat off of him, because that was something that's always been the stigma with Bray Wyatt over the years, is that you put him up against somebody and then boom, that's just their shot after that feud. You don't know what to do with them after that point. But I think LA Knight moves on after this, gets the win in this victory with the spooky stuff, like we keep mentioning here.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a situation where it's Uncle Howdy or the Fiend.
Absolutely.
Somebody pops into this and causes Bray Wyatt to lose the match for LA Knight to move on.
So, I mean, all right, Joey, this Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy thing, this has got to get revealed here at the Rumble. Are we working to an Uncle Howdy Bray Wyatt? First of all, the stupidest name of all time, Bruce or Triple H or Vince, whoever came up with that nonsense. It was terrible. But we all know it's his real life brother, Bo Dallas.
It looks a lot like Bo Dallas. Yeah.
And I was going to say the Uncle Howdy thing is actually a callback to his Uncle Barry Windham. Is that they used to call him Uncle Howdy back in the day in the 80s.
Oh,
so that's a callback to that.
I mean, you want to talk obscure here for our pale Wyndham Rotunda. I mean, this is something else. And let me throw this also at you guys. All right. So the crowd knows, and it will be likely revealed, Bo Dallas, his brother, Uncle Howdy, however they want to do this. Is the crowd past believe. Can he get past that gimmick? Or are they going to look at it and be like, Bo Dallas, nobody cares about that jobber, even though he was a great NXT champion, right? I don't know. Brandy, you're nodding your head here. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's going to be a situation like a lot of your more hardcore fans, your smart marks, so to speak, is, like I'm among them. I've felt like we, for the longest time, have wanted to have Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt together.
Yeah.
And whether it be in a faction, whether it be a tag team, putting them together in some form or fashion. So I think this is kind of a step in the right direction when it comes to that. But now, is it going to be a situation where, like I mentioned, I think that's going to be a situation where Uncle Howdy, Bo, whoever costs Bray Wyatt the match. I think that leads into a WrestleMania match between the two. So in essence, you're putting them together like we've kind of wanted for so long, but in a different direction.
Yeah. So you think that they're going to like pull the mask off and they're going to show that it's Bo?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. I don't either. I was just like, I think he's going to, remember when they had the Undertaker that had, I think he had a broken nose and he wore
Phantom
that
of the
like
Opera
Phantom mask.
Yeah.
That's what that looks like to me. So I think Bo could wrestle in it.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah, maybe you keep him hidden and you don't reveal. I mean, obviously everyone knows, but
yeah,
that's okay. It's an interesting thing. What do you think here, Ryan? You've seen some of the theatrics with Bray Wyatt, and you've seen the Fiend and all that stuff. As the casual fan coming back into the Royal Rumble, and that's who they're looking to attract. They want a guy like you to pay for this pay-per-view or premium live event, I should say. Now, what do you think about all this? The hoopla surrounding him. Do you want to see the big entrance, or do you even care what happens to him? And it's just he's kind of the new Undertaker.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about that. Here's how I'll answer that. Over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been two guys that I think have been more egregiously misused than anyone else. One of them's Wyatt, the other one's Braun Strowman. I just think they had great potential, both of those characters, and they just, have never really gotten them there. So the idea of a guy named LA Knight beating Bray Wyatt in the Royal Rumble kind of, I think for me, LA Knight's going to really have to impress me for that not to be a disaster.
And it's Knight with a K.
Yeah. And I also agree. I think if you're ever going to do anything with Bo Dallas, it has to be as Bray Wyatt's partner for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way you're going to make that guy, he
Were
never
not
did it for me. Sure.
You were not a believer.
I was
He's not a believer. No.
not a believer.
I had the shirt and everything.
Oh gosh,
I was a believer.
Joey, we heard a lot about the Firefly Funhouse family coming to life. And maybe that's something we see here. And you form that, that Bray Wyatt faction, which to be honest, I think fans want to see. They kind of dig. Fans love factions, first of all. Go back to the 90s. I want a new Nation of Domination. I want the Hart Foundation. I want all these factions back.
You know that I'm a huge faction guy with New Japan. Like, give me Bullet Club, give me Chaos, give me Los Ganabas Japan. Like, I love me some factions. So I agree with you on that. And they gave that to us for one night. They gave us the Wyatt family. And how cool of a debut is that? Seeing the Husky, the Husky Harris was his name when he was in Nexus, but they had all the characters out there, and I was like, oh man, are we going to get all them? And then we haven't.
Squashed it.
I think people do want to see that, and I think they can easily do it. Make Alexa Bliss, Abigail, and
that's been the biggest knock on WWE forever, though, is the fact that they'll tease something and then there's no follow through. They'll want you to forget something that they kind of throw out there as a teaser, and then it's just all of a sudden it disappears.
They've had so many of the Bullet Club leaders in their federation, and they just won't put them together. Nope. Just do it. I just have them too sweet one time. The roof will explode. I guarantee it.
And the revisionist history on the Bullet Club most of the time, right? Where they kind of just change who led the thing and who started it. And you look like your head's about to explode.
Yeah.
All right. So we thought with the Bray Wyatt LA Knight thing, we'll see. It's going to be more of a spectacle than anything else. Those matches, to me, I think you're going to start the night with the Women's Rumble. Maybe there's another match, or who knows, that they don't advertise for the pre-show. But I think you start the night, Women's Rumble. It's long. You get that going. Then you can kind of spice it up. Then you throw it Then I think you go to the Bray Wyatt match. Then you can do Roman. And then you could throw kind of as a filler in between Bianca and Alexa. And then, then we go to where we go in the pod now, the main event, the Men's Royal Rumble match. So not a lot of guys have been announced, which again, I like, but of the ones that have, we talked about at the beginning of the show, Cody Rhodes is in there, Seth Rollins, the Sami Zayn's of the world. So let's start with this. Joey, I'll start with you.
Yep.
Let's talk about maybe some storyline or two you think plays out. Give me a surprise entrant that you'd like to see. Just how would you like to see this evolve? And then we'll go through that and we'll come back with our winners and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think this match is going to start off with how Raw ended. I think we're going to get Lesnar and Lashley, just two big old guys beating each other up as the first two guys in. It's kind of like getting a marquee matchup right at the beginning for 3 minutes. And I think if they're smart, they'll do that. And Lesnar and Lashley don't have to eliminate each other. They can just keep going and eventually
throwing dudes out left and right.
Exactly.
Conquistador number 2 comes in. He's gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You could have just not a jobber, but like a mid-card guy come in and they both close on him and then go right back at each other. I mean, we've seen them do things like this before. Some surprises. I think my long shot surprise, where's Jay White going to go from New Japan Pro Wrestling? He's probably the hottest free agent right now. If he is a free agent, he's apparently still under contract with New Japan, but there's this working relationship. We'll see what happens. But the surprise I really feel confident we're getting from Japan is the Great Muta. He's on the tour right now to say goodbye to everything. And Triple H is head of creative with WWE. And he is such a fan of 70s, 80s, 90s pro wrestling. I think he brings the Great Muta in for one night just to have the Great Muta. So that would be cool. Miss him and Shinsuke had a match in Japan a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think, Muta comes in and miss Shinsuke, have some fun with it. Let Muta have a nice little send off in the Royal Rumble, and then he can get thrown out easily.
And then, they have Muta up against that's how WWE always does it. Their present day. Do they have a present day Muta? I mean, they have Nakamura, but I mean, the casual WWE fan doesn't realize that they just wrestled.
I mean, Asuka's basically just doing Muta, but I mean, it's a female male. They can't do that, but I mean, they could, but they won't.
Interesting.
I don't think they have do they have anyone that does miss? No, Aleister Black did it, but now he's in AEW.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, only person doing miss at all is Asuka.
Yeah, I think they would just have him face off with Shinsuke. Maybe AJ Styles, since there's a little bit of Japanese history. Maybe Finn Balor.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody like that.
All right.
But that's a surprise I think we might see.
It's a very long shot, Joey. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Ryan, how about you? How do you see the whole Rumble match laid out? And give me a couple of surprises you'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean, on the surprise front, The Rock they didn't really use him at all in the 30th episode of Raw, right?
Nope.
Nothing
or Stone Cold.
at all, right? I could see that being kind of like it wouldn't surprise me if he's actually going to be there. But I think the Lashley Lesnar idea to start's a really good idea. I think another way you could go is Rey Mysterio and his son. Just throwing them in the mix right in the beginning. I think that's pretty interesting. And then maybe, what's the name of the faction? I forget off the top of my head with his son.
Oh, Judgment Day.
Yeah, you have say Finn Balor comes in next, or that guy Priest, but they're double teaming Rey Mysterio. Then you have a surprise save. I don't think it would be John Cena level, especially because if John Cena's gonna enter this, it's probably gonna be late. But I think that's a spot where having someone come in and even the odds out with Rey Mysterio, even if Batista would be a pretty big one too, but someone that he was associated with would be interesting.
All right. I like that. And then I'll go through a list of surprises too here of guys you don't mention. But Brandon, what do you think about the Rumble and a surprise or two you'd like to see?
I have a number of surprises off the top of my head, but actually tying into Joey's point, if just imagine you get into a point in the middle of the Rumble, you have 3 guys in the ring, AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Jay White comes out.
Oh boy, look at Joey.
Imagine that.
Throw the tarp down. I'd be done.
Oh man. So I've had it in the back of my mind that could be something that would play out during the Rumble. But as far as people coming back, I have a feeling you're going to see Matt Riddle come back from his written off television angle. So I think he's actually in my Final Four. I think that's who we got coming back, and Riddle's going to be in the Final Four. I believe you're going to see Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder in this event, because I think you see Chelsea Green coming back in the Women's Rumble. So I think you're bringing them both in. And then I also believe long shot is going to be Andrade coming back. Charlotte Flair's back. They're married. Andrade hasn't been seen on AEW from quite some time. I think his contract is done with and he's expired. So I think you see Andrade come back into the fold. So those are some kind of surprises that I've got in the back of my
right.
mind.
I like that. Let me throw some more surprises at you guys before we get to our final fours and winners. How about Randy Orton? Do we think we see Randy Orton come back? Is he healthy enough to show up? And my buddy Corey Richmond, who's done a wrestling podcast with me for a long time, says Bad Bunny, who's in the new video game.
Yeah,
so
he's a downloadable character. Yeah, that's true.
So Randy Orton's one guy. How about Stone Cold Steve Austin? We know they want to have him at WrestleMania in some fashion. I don't necessarily think he comes in and wins the Rumble, but it can set up what he does at WrestleMania for whoever eliminates him. We see that stuff all the time.
Yeah, he's not working out for nothing. He looks absolutely shredded right now. And I don't think it's just to push his new beer. So I think, we have him stare down. So whoever eliminates him from the Rumble, that could be his Mania opponent. And it'd be somebody, that they want to give the rub to. If
Ryan,
they don't do Roman. So.
You're the casual fan, right? You're the guy they're looking to bring back. Big Stone Cold fan from the 90s, 2000s. How bananas do you go if Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out at number 30?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be two things. Like, one, that dude getting thrown over the top rope and like ruining his life would be a little bit of a concern of mine. Two, though, like, yeah, man, this is why you watch this stuff, is to see these guys again. So yeah, he'd be right at the top of the list of people that I'd want to see. Sure.
I like that. Here's one that, guys, has had a ton of traction. Booker T.
Yeah,
and we've seen, it's in Texas. He's working out. He's got the school. Wouldn't shock me to see Booker T come in and throw a guy around or two.
Nah, I agree with that. I think that's kind of that hometown guy coming into the Rumble.
Yeah, because they can't do Taker. So
yeah.
Or,
how about
or JBL
or Michael?
Okay. How about John Cena? What do we think the role for John Cena, if any, is at Royal Rumble heading to WrestleMania?
Personally, I think that might be a spot if Cena is in the Rumble. I think that's going to be a spot where he comes out and eliminates Austin Theory. And then that's where you start the build for the Theory John Cena match at WrestleMania, because that's kind of been the tease the last month or two through social media, is Austin Theory calling him out on Twitter.
That's a good call.
I like that. That's
boy, they're going to get me to
screw
root
up
for
what
Cena.
I have coming up next.
There you go.
How about Big E? Big E, we know he's been hurt for a while. I don't know his health status. Maybe our pal Corey in the chat does. But we haven't seen Big E in a long time. Remember, he was champ for a while and had to drop the strap.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough one.
Everything I've heard is it's like a neck injury and they don't want to mess around with it.
Yeah.
Then again, you never know what's real and what's not. So
the same thing with Orton. Orton had the back, the fusion in the back, and who knows when he actually had it done. But the way they put it out 2 months ago, so if that's when he had the surgery, there's no chance he's at that Rumble.
A staple in the women's event is always Mickie James, and her free agent husband from the NWA, Nick Aldis, could make a debut here. I don't think that's crazy to see Nick Aldis. I don't know how much the WWE fan base knows him, but that would just take the announcers really selling, hey, this guy's a big deal.
He seems like somebody that Triple H would just love. I'm shocked that they haven't signed him by now, because he just looks like a prototypical, like, I know he's in NWA, but like you could just cut paste him into 70s NWA and he would fit in perfect.
Right. I wish I lived in 70s
NWA
just to drink.
That's your question for Ryan there. Do you know who Nick Aldis is?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Well,
do you?
Hey,
do.
Ding ding.
Wow. All right, let me throw two more at you here as I give you I'll give you my crazy theory on the end here.
Can't wait.
All right. I think this is a very good chance. Pat McAfee. McAfee, because remember, he had that great match last year. He could come in, get eliminated, sit down in the chair, and broadcast the rest of the Rumble.
Right, yeah, because he's done with College Game Day. So that affiliation's done with for now.
All right. Here's you want to get off the wall. I don't have a beer in front of me. Damn it. This is how a host should not come to a show. Here it is. Vince McMahon. Vince is in that No Chance in Hell hits. The place goes bananas at number 30. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Vince is not going to go. But could he win the Rumble? Sure. And this is how. And this is going to set up my crazy storyline, because he's in there with his protege, Austin Theory. Theory's throwing guys out left and right, protecting them. Maybe there's another guy that comes in and it forms a new faction for Vince. And then Vince now, so it sets up, you can have, I got a whole plan here. There's a story within a story. So you have this Vince thing where now his opponent is Triple H, but he's not fighting Triple H. He's fighting Triple H's handpicked guy. Who has Triple H had the most run with, good and bad, over the last 10 years? Seth Rollins.
Yeah, Rollins.
So now we're setting up Seth Rollins with Austin Theory. Yes, we just saw it in the U.S. title, but now we're on the mic. Vince and Triple H for control of the company. These guys kind of fighting for it as their mouthpieces. And I don't know if Vince wants to win it. Maybe he eliminates himself and, Theory then wins the Rumble. That's my winner. Spoiler, I'm saying Austin Theory wins the championship, wins the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
But I also think then in there, you can tell multiple stories. Earlier in the Rumble, you can tell the story of Cody Rhodes. And then it's kind of like the Rumble resets itself maybe every 10 people, right? You can have that story you guys talked about with Lashley and Brock, if I could talk, and Brock Lesnar. They get eliminated. Now we kind of get the second thing. You can get the Cody story and he gets them. And then the craziness with Vince returning with his new corporation, however they want to call it. And he's got Strowman with him, and he's this new monster, and he's got Theory, and it's a whole new faction. So that's as crazy as I like to get here. And again, folks, I'm only drinking purple Powerade here, but that's where I'm going to go. My final four: Austin Theory, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, because they always put a wackadoo guy in there. Remember, at one point, like, it wasn't IRS in the finals, like not that long ago. And if it's not Vince, my sleeper breakout pick of 2023, Damian Priest, who I think is a stud. And I'm going to say next year at WrestleMania, they got together 2 weeks ago. It was magic in the ring. Montez Ford, Damian Priest will headline pay-per-views in a year or two. So I know I spit a lot out at you right there, guys.
A lot.
But first of all, let me get your reaction. Will Vince, let's start with you, Ryan. Will Vince return to the Royal Rumble and be on TV? They say he was not at the 30th show, but I don't know if I buy that.
I'm going to say no, but I like your idea. It's very interesting.
Brandon, what's Vince doing here? He's taking back the company.
You want to watch the world burn? That's bringing Vince McMahon back in a Royal Rumble. I don't think he's going to be in the Rumble or show up at the Rumble, because I think if you were going to bring him back at any point in time, it would have been at the 30th anniversary of Raw, because that's his baby. That's his show he started. And I think if you were going to try to, appease the fans in any sort of degree, that would have been the time to bring Vince McMahon back in, was on the 30th anniversary of Raw. So I don't see Vince being there. I like the idea. That's a very good, like I said, watch the world burn scenario, because
you could have Theory, Stone Cold. Because if Stone Cold comes out, because they love, the anti-Vince thing, maybe Vince is at ringside or something, comes out. There's so much you can do here. I love it. All right, so let's start spinning out your guys' final fours and winners. So my winner is Austin Theory of the Rumble. Joey, let's go to you. Final four, and give me a winner.
My final four: Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, and Logan Paul. I just think that, just get the eyes, the people that are normally watching it. Put Logan Paul in the final four. He's honestly looked really good in the ring anytime he's been in there. And I'm sticking with Cody. I think this is just, like I said, he didn't leave AEW to be a mid-carder. Yeah. They're going to put the belt on him. And, I wouldn't be shocked to see Roman go away for a while after this. After Mania, he's worked his butt off the last 3 years, and he deserves a little bit of a break. So,
yeah, we'll see if Logan Paul can return to that ACL. That's a tough injury. Who knows? He
tore his ACL. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he tore it in the last match that he was in. So, but again, maybe you get a guy out there and you can just dance around for a little bit. Ryan, what do you see?
I'm going to go with The Rock, even though that's a volatile play. I think it'll be Rhodes, Rollins, where I think Rollins has to be the guy that eliminates Rhodes. Because if you have The Rock eliminates Rhodes, it's going to be a disaster. And then I think McIntyre will be the other guy, the fourth.
Okay.
Where it ends up being McIntyre versus The Rock at the end. Where I think Cody Rhodes, I think you almost have to have him lose to build the story the right way, and then have him win Money in the Bank. I think he's a Money in the Bank kind of guy, personally.
All right. Yeah, I like that, because the fans are going to all assume Cody's winning this thing. And when he goes over the top it'll be very Giant Gonzalez eliminating the Undertaker. That really happened, folks. Look it up. And, like, people will lose their mind. It'll be that meme of the guy when the Undertaker lost the streak, and they'll be like, "Wait a minute, Cody's supposed to win."
That'll be
You
me.
know, so it's just crazy. All right, I think Brandon, we still got you.
I think that's another shocking elimination was back with 03-04 when Maven put Undertaker over.
Yeah.
That was another shocker. But no, I agree. You're looking at 2014 Royal Rumble. If Rock comes in and eliminates Cody Rhodes or eliminates Sami Zayn, you're looking at like that's when that's when Roman Reigns put Daniel Bryan out, and the crowd came unglued on Roman Reigns that night. I think that would be a similar situation if you saw The Rock come in and do that. But for me, I've kind of mentioned it a little bit. My winner, Cody, I'm sticking with that, just with that long game that they're playing with that storyline. So I'm going Cody to win it, with the final four being Cody, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, and Matt Riddle, who I mentioned just a few moments ago. Okay. That's my final four.
I like it, guys. Is there anybody kind of off the radar that you didn't pick, that you in the back of your mind think, I could see how they write that? Like, I can see how they put, X, Y, and Z in the main event at WrestleMania. Like, you got to fill 2 nights. I'm kind of over Drew McIntyre. Like, I was never really on board with him. Like, I can't look at him. I can't look at, could KO win it? Maybe. Who I think was on that track before he got sent away was Matt Riddle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What if Matt Riddle returns and wins the Royal Rumble? And now you got, super over babyface. People love him. And maybe then he goes for one of those belts. I don't know. But any of you guys, anybody else you could see just off the top of your head winning it?
Well, that's like I mentioned Matt Riddle. I think that's kind of a perfect opportunity to bring him back in. You mentioned it. The fans loved him. They like that shtick. They like that little, Fast Times at Ridgemont High character that he plays. It's a good, goofy laugh character. I think if they bring him back in the Rumble though this year, I think that's a perfect opportunity to bring him back in as a serious type of character, as opposed to that goofy guy that he's been playing for so long now. And I think if you could get Randy Orton healthy, that's when you bridge into that storyline between the two of them with Randy Orton and that breakup with Riddle. And that's your match eventually between those two.
Well, one thing I'll say from a betting perspective, especially considering that Reigns has had both titles for 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Almost, yeah.
And Cena has 16? He's tied, or he's one short, right?
Tied with Flair at 16. Yep.
Right, he's tied. Him being 50-1 is crazy to me in this.
Yeah.
Because talk about a matchup you could push from a marketing standpoint, Cena versus Reigns.
Yeah.
If you don't have The Rock, I think that's, considering how big the ramifications are, I think he should be more like 12-1.
I worry that I just don't think John Cena can work anymore. You see him in these one-off matches and the tags they have him in. He's so goofy and he's playing to the crowd the whole time. Like, I don't know. They're going to break these belts up at some point. I can't wait to see what they do.
Yeah.
I this is a really long shot, but it pretty much everyone they put up against Reigns, they really have at this point. Is this a moment where they take a chance on a young kid like they did with Randy Orton a while ago, and they bring up Braun Breaker for like the shocker of the century? I wouldn't do it, but stranger things have happened.
I mean, you kind of gotten to the point with Braun Breaker in NXT at this point. He's same thing as Reigns. He's been through the gamut, and what's he going to do? Yeah,
he's going to change his damn name, please, God. Put Steiner on that kid's name.
I know, seriously. Like, you want to talk about royal families in wrestling? I mean, Flairs and Rhodes, and I mean, Steiners are a really big name in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So
that was a Vince call and a Bruce Pritchard call.
I love to see it, man.
If Jay White comes in as Ray Black, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna like freak out. But
oh man, it's gonna be fun, man. And that's the beauty of all this, folks, is you can just sit back. You can be a hardcore fan that watches New Japan like Joey. You can be an old school guy like Brandon, or you could be, that casual nostalgia guy like Ryan. The Royal Rumble has something for everybody. We hope you enjoyed our little look here at it from the Hustle. And again, follow these gentlemen on Twitter. Joey is at the Joey Wright. Ryan is at Ryan Reynolds NFL, and Brandon at Roto Superstar. I am at Drake Fantasy. thanks everybody, gentlemen. This was awesome. I appreciate your time. And, maybe we'll have to do a little Royal Rumble recap, WrestleMania preview down the line.
Sounds good.
Yes, let's do it.
Awesome, guys. Love it. Thank you, guys. Everybody else for checking out the show here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you won't miss the next show that we put out. Take care, everybody.